Good evening, boys and girls. I'm Joe Esposito. Glad you could be here tonight. Some of you know me, some of you don't. How many people listen to radio? This is what I look like. Sorry. So, ruined your night. And what we're going to talk about tonight is kind of a fun lecture. This is kind of a whimsical lecture we're going to go with, is surviving, really, the holidays. Because right now we're getting into Thanksgiving season. We just passed Halloween. We got Christmas coming up, Christmas parties, New Year's. This is the time when your immune system is going to get blown out. And it's kind of funny because if you look at it, and I predicted this, and I predict it every year, people were getting a little sick before Halloween. Halloween came last week. Everybody's sick this week. Okay? Patients, friends, and you'll see it. Then they'll get a little better. Thanksgiving will come. They'll eat themselves silly. And they'll get sick again. And then Christmas will come. And they'll eat themselves silly and they'll get sick again. And then New Year's comes. And then you drink yourself silly. Okay? And then you'll find the first week of the new year, the second week of the new year, everybody crashes. Because the immune system can't handle this onslaught of stress from the chemicals that we put in our body. And it's really simple. If you understand how to survive these holidays, you'll actually enjoy them. For the first time. I mean, isn't it weird? Thanksgiving is here. Let's celebrate. Let's eat ourselves silly and get sick. That's not a celebration. That's getting yourself sick. I never understood birthdays either, right? It's my birthday. Let's celebrate by eating as much high fructose corn syrup and sugar as we possibly can with hydrogenated oil and then crash. Anybody have kids? Every birthday, what happened? That night, they were out of their minds, right? Okay. Yeah, you have kids? You have kids? You better not have kids. You got some explaining to do, Lucy. So, who's Lucy? You know? She'll explain it later. Okay. So we're going to talk about what happens at a Thanksgiving meal or a Christmas meal, okay? First of all, we eat turkey, right? If turkey was so good, why don't we eat it the rest of the year? We have it on Thanksgiving and Christmas. Now, turkeys are big. I mean, I'm 50 years old. When I was young, turkeys were about this big. Now they're this big. What happened? We're feeding the turkeys, in many cases, steroids, chemicals, hormones, antibiotics, pesticides, herbicides, and tranquilizers. How about the juicy ones? Want the butter inside? They inject chemicals underneath the skin, highly toxic chemicals, to make it juicy. And what is the juice anyway? It's what? Brine, salt. But have you ever cut open a steak or cut open a piece of turkey and the juice runs out? Some of that's blood, which is pretty gross. And about 10% of it is uric acid. What's uric acid? It's urine. It's pee. It's cow pee, chicken pee, and piggy pee. Or turkey pee in this case. And what do you do with the pee? Make gravy out of it. Takes the thrill out of the gravy now, doesn't it? Okay? So you're eating, first of all, something that you really aren't designed to eat anyway. It's loaded with steroids, chemicals, hormones, antibiotics, pesticides, herbicides, and tranquilizers in most cases. That's why they got so big. Then we put chemicals into it to make it juicy. And then we take that juice and we make gravy out of it. Doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? Okay? Now, anybody ever hear turkey makes you tired? What's the chemical in turkey that makes you tired? Tryptophan. It's not true. Okay? Most meat has the same amount of tryptophan in it. It's the volume of food that we eat on Thanksgiving. How big is your stomach? Any idea? Size of your fist. There you go. Everybody knew that, right? Size of your fist. How much food do you eat on Thanksgiving?
3 times that size.
3 times at least that size. And your stomach can't handle it. Even if you're eating organically grown raw fruits and vegetables. If you ate that much organically grown raw fruits and vegetables, your stomach swells. And then the stomach can't work. The way the stomach works is like this. You put food in there, and the stomach is like a half-full Ziploc bag. And it squishes the food around with your digestive enzymes. And the digestive enzymes take the proteins and break them down into something called amino acids. Then this digested food goes into your small intestine where nutrients get absorbed, and then it goes through the digestive process. If your stomach is so bloated and full, it can't squish around the food with the digestive enzymes. And so what happens is the food sits in your stomach and it rots. And then it passes into the small intestine partially digested. So once it gets to the small intestine can't do the stomach's job. It's an assembly line. And so now the small intestine doesn't know what to do with this stuff. The food rots more. And then eventually gets into the large intestine and hopefully comes out. But when the stomach is bloated like that and engorged, it pushes up against the diaphragm. And when it pushes up against the diaphragm, it spasms. And I would tell you this, that I probably work on 10 or 15 stomachs a day in my practice. I work 6 days a week, seeing patients. Stomach pushes up against the diaphragm, food can't get digested properly, and sometimes the stomach stays there. And eventually it can herniate up through what's called the valve, okay, the esophageal sphincter it's called. And if it ruptures up through the stomach, we call that a hiatal hernia. Anybody hear that word? Yeah. Okay. Now you know what a hiatal hernia is. It herniates up, the hiatus of the stomach herniates up through the esophageal sphincter. And so what do? We give you medication for that, right? Because you have acid reflux. There you go. You're a smart group tonight. You guys have acid reflux, so we give you medication. Now the medication, what it does, it helps suppress your production of hydrochloric acid. You need hydrochloric acid to break down the food. And we talked about food not being digested properly. So if we suppress the hydrochloric acid, it may help a little bit of the acid reflux symptoms, but it actually makes the problem long term, in most cases, worse. Because you need the acid. Now, a 10-year-old kid, let's assume, has 100% digestive enzymes. We're making up a scale here. By the time that kid is about 60, that kid will have about 20% of the digestive capabilities they had when they were 10. Average American. By the time they're 70, they might have 10%. And by the time they're 80, they're going to have less than 10% of the digestive capabilities they had when they were 10 years old. And the irony of it is, anybody ever been to a senior home? What do they feed those people? Horrible! Cheap, horrible food. And they all sit around and wait for dessert. Every meal, their tails wagging, their ears pop up, and they're waiting for the dessert to come out. At that age, they can't digest the sugars and the proteins and the fats like they could have when they were kids, and now they're given the cheapest form available. And I submit to you that a lot of folks between 70 and 80 starve to death. Not due to lack of food, lack of absorption. They can't absorb the nutrients. Now, have you ever been to a senior home and it smells like what? Pee. It smells like urine, right? What happens is, if you have a high acid diet, the typical Thanksgiving diet, alcohols, meat, sugar, dairy, coffee, soda, artificial sweetener, grains, all of these are acidic. Your body has to produce alkaline byproducts to neutralize the acid. Calcium is one of the chemicals the body uses to neutralize the acid. If the body doesn't have any mineral stores to neutralize the acid, now the body has to produce ammonia. Ammonia is used to neutralize the acids. And what does ammonia smell like? Pee. So what's happening is they're trying so hard to stay alive to neutralize the acids that they're eating at every single meal. Makes no sense. I'm going to give you acid, now try to neutralize it. Oh, you can't? Oh, we'll give you some more acid. Try neutralizing that. Oh, you can't? Now produce ammonia. And then you smell. When you have that urine smell, it's beginning of the end of someone's life. Because they've depleted their stores of minerals. Calcium being one of them, sodium being one of them. They can't utilize the minerals to neutralize the acid, and so the body's trying everything it can to stay alive. What if we didn't give them the acid? And we gave them huge quantities of natural minerals to rebuild the stores of energy in their body instead of depleting it. What an interesting concept. Now we're treating the cause, not the symptoms. And if you take those acid reflux pills, remember we talked about those a few minutes ago? If you take those acid reflux pills, they might forget to mention that it prevents you from absorbing things like calcium and B12. B12 is necessary for energy and nerve function. And what happens with old folks, they lose their calcium and they lose their B12, so the nervous system starts to shut down. And so now we give them a B12 shot. Does it work? Sure it works. However, if we didn't deplete the B12 to begin with, we wouldn't need to give them the shot. Make sense? So we do this a couple of times a year, Thanksgiving and Christmas. No, we don't. We do it every day. Let's get real, okay? Thanksgiving and Christmas, we do more of it. And then we do sugar. Okay, we have the dessert tray. Well, what happens is, back in the 70s, we meaning society, created something called high fructose corn syrup. You've heard of that? It's where?
In
everything. I love this group. It's the smartest group ever. So, it's everywhere. Now, we all want to stay trim. Want to look nice for the holidays, right? Look good in our suits and our dress. Well, not my dresses, but your dresses. High fructose corn syrup. If you had 100 calories of high fructose corn syrup, well, let's go back to sugar. Plain old white sugar. 100 calories, 1 calorie will be stored as fat. 100 calories of high fructose corn syrup, 40 calories get stored as fat. So essentially, even though it's the same amount of calories, it's 40 times more fattening. And there goes the pens coming out. Most people have their pens out before this, you know. You're a little slow today, isn't it? And when you eat high fructose corn syrup or any type of fructose, even orange juice, which is fructose, the body can only process about 75 grams of fructose a day. Anything beyond that goes into the liver and gets converted into something called uric acid. Now, what's uric acid famous for? What disease? Gout. Exactly. It hurts the big toe. It hurts so bad you got uric acid buildup. Well, uric acid gets in all the joints. Not just the foot and the knees and the ankles, the neck, the shoulder, the arms, the hips. And so that can cause a lot of pain. And a lot of people say after Thanksgiving, well, gosh, my joints are acting up. It must be the cold weather. No, it's the junk you ate at Thanksgiving that got into your joints. Okay? And if you take high fructose corn syrup, it converts to uric acid. Uric acid prevents your body from producing something called nitric oxide. Nitric oxide opens up your blood vessels and allows normal blood flow to bring nutrients to your joints and carry out waste products. Okay? B12 will help, and it helps the nervous system, which also helps control that. So if you're doing high fructose corn syrup, you're causing the blood vessels not to expand, so it can't carry nutrients through the system, can't bring nutrients to the body and flush out the waste products. Wow. And one of the things that happens as we get older, if anyone's ever watched a sporting event, they have these commercials for men. These pills that help men act like they're young men again. You know what I'm talking about. Okay? That's what nitric oxide does. Nitric oxide does that naturally. So if you're sucking down soda and cookies and cakes and donuts and breads, and it's high in fructose or high fructose corn syrup, you're preventing the nitric oxide production. So then you take a little pill to open up the blood vessels, you're treating the symptom, not the cause. Wow. Neat stuff, huh? Suddenly Thanksgiving doesn't look so tempting, does it? But it's okay. Because what Lori has done today, the famous Lori, Lori's created some of these wonderful recipes that you can serve, and you all have copies of the recipes, that you can serve or bring to a Thanksgiving dinner, which are not high in high fructose corn syrup, which have no steroids, chemicals, hormones, antibiotics, pesticides, herbicides, or tranquilizers in them. Alcohol, meat, sugar, dairy, coffee, soda, artificial sweeteners, steroids, chemicals. Been doing this for a long time. It's in my book, actually, yes. So what Lori made tonight is a wild rice stuffing. Everything, by the way, we always serve you is gluten-free. And I'll talk about gluten in a second, remind me. And everything is vegan. So no animal products. No urine or blood. Okay? No turkey pee was included in any of this. So, and what else have we made, Laura?
The stuffing has wild rice and brown rice in it. And I cooked it down with onion. And I put, where's that little... Here we go. They have something really cool called savory herb seasoning. It's in the bulk section, so it's a mix of your sage and your spices that you would want to use. So I put that in there with some fresh mushrooms and thyme. Okay, and then we have a gravy that is the Rhodes End gravy, and they come in little packets, and they have a variety. They have golden, they have mushroom, different ones. Now this does have soy in it, this product. Okay. But I went ahead and made my own gravy base, which is rice flour with nutritional yeast. And I use the palm oil shortening because we don't use the dairy either. So
right.
Just try that to see for a base and then add it to it. And you can put your mushrooms in it, whatever you like. And it also comes in a golden, so you can do it without the mushrooms, however you would like to. And then we made your traditional sweet potato casserole. Right here we use the canned sweet potato puree. I used 2 cans of that, and I put a little brown sugar in it, and I topped it with rice mellow, which is the same as marshmallow, only it's made out of brown rice syrup. And then I put pecans on the top and then baked it. And tonight we're also featuring a vegan and gluten-free pie, which is a pumpkin pie. This is made by Foods, and I haven't opened it yet. Kim's here tonight, and she donated it. It's a new bakery, and she does everything vegan and gluten-free. So you'll have a chance to try that.
So what Lori did in her genius creation, she made a wild rice and brown rice stuffing. Now, wild rice isn't really rice, it's grass seed, in case you didn't know that, and very high in fiber. The brown rice still has the whole grain on it. It has the bran on it, and so it's higher in fiber. So when you eat something that has carbohydrates in it, the fiber will push it through your colon and give you a slow release of sugar, as opposed to eating white rice or white bread stuffing, bang, that sugar gets absorbed instantly. So what happens is, let's assume Lori made a white bread stuffing tonight with white rice. Okay? That sugar, your cells can only take so much sugar at a time. So we put the sugar in the system, and again, when I say sugar, not only the packets, but any grain whatsoever. Okay, it gets into the system, and the cells take as much sugar as they can use, and then the cells say, I'm done, I can't take any more. So the insulin in your body is carrying sugar to the cells, and the cells are saying, stop, I can't take any more. So the sugar has to go somewhere, it doesn't just disappear. So the sugar goes back into the liver and gets stored as something called glycogen. Glycogen is your reserve of energy. Okay? Once the reserve tanks are all filled up, that glycogen can't be converted anymore, so now the body sends it back to the liver and converts it into triglycerides. Triglycerides get stored as fat. This is why a carbohydrate meal will make you fat. Now, if I ate the same amount of calories in protein, let's say beans, wild rice, lentils, split peas, nuts, seeds, I'm not going to gain the weight that I would if I ate the carbohydrates. 30 years ago, when I first started studying nutrition, we were taught calories in, calories out. Doesn't work that way anymore. We were wrong. Okay? Now it's the type of calories and the chemistry that goes behind it. This is why if you're going to make a stuffing, a wild rice stuffing is a much better choice. A gravy without gluten is a much better choice. Mushrooms help stimulate the immune system. So instead of getting sick after eating a meal, you might actually get healthy after eating a meal. Onions are high in quercetin. Quercetin is nature's antihistamine. So the onions actually can help bring down inflammation and prevent mucus production because it's an antihistamine. Garlic is antibiotic, antiviral, and antifungal. There's no garlic in here, but you can add garlic to it as well. And now your food becomes your medicine. Pretty cool. And how's it taste?
Delicious.
Tastes fine, right? So instead of taking a white bread stuffing, you can make something like this, impress your friends, and then when you go to the party, you don't have to eat all the bad food. I don't care what other people eat, I just don't want them to care what I eat. Okay? I'm single. Go out with my friends. I meet people. You're vegetarian. Ew. I don't care as long as they don't care. Okay? So we look at this and we say, okay, this is something that we can bring. The sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes don't have the glycemic index, or glycemic load it's called, that white potatoes have. By the way, they're not even potatoes. Just so you know. Okay? It's a different species. Or genus, species, I don't know what it is. You're the school teacher. What is it? So the sweet potato is not going to spike your blood sugar and do that whole thing. Remember, glucose converts glycogen, glycogen converts triglycerides, triglycerides get stored as fat. White potatoes will, sweet potatoes won't. Pretty cool. And the marshmallows have gelatin in them if you get commercial marshmallows. What's gelatin made from?
Pig hooves.
What is it?
Pig hooves.
Pig hooves and horse hooves and bone marrow. Sometimes fish bones, too. Now, why would you want to eat bone marrow and horse hooves? I don't know. Do you eat it if the dirt's still under the toenail when you eat it? I don't know. That's pretty gross, isn't it? But this marshmallow is not. How cool is that? Rice syrup has a lower glycemic index than something like processed sugar. So you can make something that's delicious and not make you sick, as opposed to making something that is delicious and makes you sick. Make sense? Okay. I haven't had a piece of meat since 1986. Haven't had dairy products since 1986. So far, so good. I go to parties, I go to events, I go to, my father called them shindigs, right? And it's okay because there's going to be food there that you can eat. You will never starve, I promise you. No matter what happens, you won't starve, no matter how hard you try. There's always something you can eat. Or, if you're going to go to a party, how about you eat beforehand? And this way you're not hungry. Because when you're hungry, you make what? Good choices or bad?
Bad choices.
So I'm not teaching you anything new. You know this. Never go shopping hungry, never go to a party hungry. And then you can go and enjoy the party as opposed to stuffing yourself silly. And then causing the stomach to push up against the diaphragm, which could lead to a hiatal hernia. And the food rots in your stomach, and then you acid reflux, you take the pills, it shuts down your production and absorption of calcium and vitamin B12. Why would you do that? Silly now, isn't it? When you think of it that way, it's kind of silly to do that. And many times, if you have digestive problems, it's not that you have too much stomach acid, it's that you have too little stomach acid. So here's a little trick for you too. A lot of times in the winter, I switch to eating a little less fresh foods, not available, and I eat more beans and lentils and split peas and heavy foods. Now, one of the downsides of eating lentils and split peas and beans is it could be a little embarrassing, get a little gassy. So here's your little trick. You can do raw organic apple cider vinegar. Raw organic apple cider vinegar is going to help your digestive system break down the foods more efficiently. So you can try an experiment. Make a big pot of split pea soup. One day have it, and don't put any apple cider vinegar in it. And notice what happens the next day. 2 days later, have a split pea soup and add 2 or 3 tablespoons of raw organic apple cider vinegar, and watch how your body digests it so much more efficiently. And you'll go, wow. And the reason I learned this is kind of cool. My mother's parents were from Germany, they were immigrants. My father's parents were from Italy, they were immigrants. And my German grandparents would make a lot of beans and split peas and lentils, and they always put apple cider vinegar in the soup. And one day I asked my grandmother, I said, Nanny, how come we put apple cider vinegar in a soup? And her answer was, I don't know. Because she always did, right? You don't change it. That's the rules. Now science has shown that they knew how to help the digestive system. They just didn't know why. Now we know why. So if you're going to go out to a Thanksgiving meal, even if it's a gluten-free and vegan Thanksgiving meal, I would suggest that you take about 2 tablespoons of raw organic apple cider vinegar. Now I'm going to take it one step further. I would suggest you take this every single day. And you will be amazed, in about 2 or 3 days, your energy level should skyrocket. Digestion will get better. You'll have 2 to 3 bowel movements a day, which is normal. And that's what's good. Now this is one brand, Bragg. Spectrum is another brand. It's got to be the raw, organic, unfiltered apple cider vinegar. Now, I'll be honest with you. I don't like the flavor of it. Yeah. So you can drink it straight. Some people can. Tougher than me, like that guy over there. He's one of those military guys. They can do weird stuff, so. What you can do is, I mix it in the soup. No, cook with it. When it's done, add it. I have salad every day, and in my salad, I use apple cider vinegar as part of my dressing. 1 part apple cider vinegar, 1 part extra virgin olive oil. Very simple. Okay? If you want to drink it, you can drink it straight. You can mix it with water. You can mix it with honey. You can mix it with tomato juice. Tomato juice, the best one. Really dilutes it and makes it go down a little easier. Lemon juice supposedly works real well as well. Pickle juice. Drink it and eat a pickle.
No, don't drink the juice. You just eat a pickle.
Eat a pickle with the apple cider vinegar. Right? That's the trick.
Immediately after.
Immediately after, kind of wash it down. Yeah, okay. Told you he's weird.
I'm going to give tomatoes.
Try tomato juice. That's right, yeah. But you'll be amazed if you start adding the apple cider vinegar to your repertoire, how quickly you'll see the changes. Okay? And it's loaded with vitamins, minerals, and nutrients, probiotics. Really is good stuff. Okay? So if you are going to gorge yourself, even if it's on good food, again, we talked about volume in the beginning of the lecture. Too much volume, the body can't work. And so this will help the digestive system break it down a lot more efficiently. Okay? So we talked a little bit about food. I want to go into another area today that's more important than what you eat. It's how you process the food. And the way the body works is your brain controls everything. Can we agree with that? Yes? Say yes. Okay. And your brain sits up here, right? Most cases. And the brain sends messages Down your spine, out your nerves to every cell in your body. Those of you listening to me on the radio, I say this about every 10 minutes. Why? Because this is the paradigm shift that if you can take and put it into your life, you will now achieve optimum health. You cannot achieve optimum health unless the nervous system is working properly. And there's two things can affect the messages from the brain to the body, the nervous system. One is chemical, one is physical. Chemical is some of the food we just fed you. This was nourishing food. This is going to give you the raw materials to produce the electricity to make the nerves work. We're not plugged into the wall. So we have to generate our own electricity. How do we generate it? With chemicals. Good chemicals, lots of electricity, nervous system works right. Bad chemicals, nervous system can't work properly. And then we have a state of disease. Think about the word dis-ease, not at ease. So if we're putting the proper chemicals in the body's at ease. We put the bad chemicals in, the body's not at ease, it's at dis-ease. And so what you put in your body has a direct effect on how well the nervous system works. So food is one of the chemical things that can affect your nerves. How about drugs? Drugs can affect your nerves, right? You have a headache, you take a pill, the headache goes away. Did the headache go away? Covered it up. Sometimes that's necessary. I'm not against drugs. I'm against unnecessary use of drugs. Big difference.
About nicotine?
Nicotine, same thing. Nicotine is a stimulant. Okay? So what happens is when you start taking outside stimulants, for example, the body stops producing its own stimulants. The body says, I got to reach a state of what's called homeostasis. Homeostasis is a point where everything is in balance. So if I start putting outside stimulants in, my body says I don't have to produce my own stimulants anymore. So it shuts down its production. And then what happens is you want to take more stimulants because your body's not producing its own. Throws you out of homeostasis. That's why the addicting foods, nicotine, chocolate, sugars, are so hard to get off. Sugar is more addicting than heroin. I can take a MRI, a functional MRI of your brain, and I give you heroin, and a certain part of your brain lights up. I can take that same functional MRI and give you sugar, that brain part lights up more. So it's actually more addicting than heroin. Wow.
Which is more harmful, heroin or sugar?
Well, the heroin is more harmful short term, but the sugar is more harmful long term. Because the sugar, the 8 things we talked about, alcohol, meat, sugar, dairy, coffee, soda, artificial sweetener, and grains are acidic. The body has to give up, we talked about that, minerals to neutralize the acid. So long term, it's going to suck the minerals out of your body, and then you're in a senior citizen home smelling like pee because your body's producing ammonia to try to neutralize the acid because you don't have any minerals anymore. Follow? Okay. So chemicals can affect the nervous system. There can also be a physical impact on the nervous system. Anybody ever been in a car accident? Every hand should go up. Average in Atlanta, once every 5 years. Okay? Car accidents, lifting, bending, squatting, housework, yard work, sports injuries, having kids. Oh yeah. And that can cause the bones in the spine to twist out of place. Or the bones in the feet, or the knees, or the hips, or the skull. There's 206 bones in the body. Any one of them can move out of place. Had some patients come in today and they said, Doc, I've been going to this other chiropractor, but he doesn't adjust extremities. He doesn't adjust shoulders. And I said, I don't know why. It's a bone. It can come out of place. Put it back in place. Okay, the foot. Had a patient get in a motorcycle accident. Came in today. Doc, the motorcycle landed on my foot. Can you adjust my foot? Absolutely. So if a bone moves out of place, it pinches a nerve. You pinch a nerve, one of the things that happens is it hurts. Right? So if a bone is pinching a nerve and it hurts, let's unpinch it. There's rocket science, right? However, 90% of your nerves don't feel pain. Don't raise your hand, but if you have high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, it doesn't hurt. All controlled by what? Nerves. So if you can have a pinched nerve and not know it, and I'll show you today how to test for pinched nerves. I did this at the last lecture, so I'll do it again today. Okay? And I'll look for a volunteer, so see who wants to be brave, okay? And we'll test to see if you actually have pinched nerves. And I'm not going to use pain as my barometer because only 10% of the nerves feel pain. 90% of the nerves don't feel pain. With me so far? Okay. So, we have to put good food into the body. And I'm going to talk about what good foods are. We touched on it a little bit. We have to get the nervous system working properly, and the digestive system has to be working. And if you can have those 3 things, you can survive Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's.
Every day.
You can survive every day. Okay? I talk about it on the radio, and it's so true. I feel like I live in this parallel universe. Okay, a child is hyperactive. So what do? Well, we give them candy and ice cream because that's a treat. And then it'll be good for a few minutes. Maybe for a few minutes. But then we have the long-term impact of what's going to happen by giving this kid candies and cookies and cakes and donuts. Okay? And we look at our own health. Well, gosh, I'm tired all the time, so I need a stimulant. Well, you take the stimulant like coffee or nicotine. The body stops producing its own stimulants. Not a good idea. And so we're doing damage to our body every single day. Health is self-induced. Disease is self-induced in most cases. So next time you sit down to your Thanksgiving dinner, look at the turkey and the stuffing and the gravy and the cranberry sauce with high fructose corn syrup and the alcohol and the Irish cream and the coffee. Coffee has more synthetic pesticides than any other food in the world. And the Irish cream with artificial sweeteners in it. And you think to yourself, is this meal going to be worth it? And if the answer is yes, then eat it. If the answer is no, don't. I promise you that if I came to anybody's house and they had a Thanksgiving meal laid out, I could eat enough to fill up my stomach. And now here's the other trick I want to teach you. It takes 20 minutes to get the message from here to here. So if I sit down to a Thanksgiving dinner and I'm hungry, I'm going to eat for 20 minutes. And then I'll be full. I'll be overfull. We've all done it. Okay? But if I have a snack 20 minutes before my meal, I can make the right decisions. Okay? So before you leave, we got plenty of time. Before you leave, we have lots of snacks up here. Now, these are better choices than what you would have at a regular Thanksgiving meal. So if you put out these snacks for people and encourage them to eat the snacks, you're going to help save their lives. What a nice little gift. Okay? You can put out celery sticks, and you can put out with nut butter in it, maybe cashew butter, almond butter. Have one of these. Have some nuts. Have some of the snacks here. And notice what happens. People are not going to get sick when they leave your house. And I recommend that you have a snack before every meal. 20 minutes before every meal. Because then you can eat like a human. And eat sanely. You've seen a buffet, right? All you can eat. You're not supposed to eat all you can eat. Okay? And you thought, I got my $6 worth, didn't I? Can't go to work for 2 weeks because I'm sick. Yes?
I just had a question. I know grains are good to stay away from.
Right.
As much as possible. What about grains like seeds, seed bread, millet, spelt?
Okay, the question was grains. I keep talking about grains because grains break down into sugar. We discussed how sugar is processed. What about seed bread, millet, spelt? Spelt still has something called gluten in it. Gluten is a protein, and in the protein there's something called lectin. And lectin, when it gets into your small intestine, irritates the small intestine and causes it to become inflamed. And when the small intestine becomes inflamed, you can't absorb your nutrients and pass out your waste products. Now, some people have a condition called celiac disease. What's the only treatment for celiac disease?
Stay away from the gluten.
Stay away from gluten. You got to be gluten-free. Not gluten-reduced, gluten-free. I submit to you my opinion that everyone has some sensitivity to the gluten and the lectin. Okay? And here's your challenge. Find out if I'm right. If I'm wrong, so what? That's a good deal, right? If I'm wrong, so what? What's the difference? 10 days, stay away from grains, especially wheat, barley, and rye. If you have to do a grain, it's the end of the world, you have to do the grain, quinoa would be your best choice. Millet would be your next best choice. Okay? But I prefer you stay away from grains for 10 days. On the 11th day, eat grains. Have a slice of pizza. Have some cookies or cakes or donuts or breads or pastas and see how you feel. And if you feel like, then you shouldn't eat that. Okay? And you'll know right away if you're sensitive to grains, especially gluten. And the answer will be 100% yes. But you don't believe me? Try. And if I'm wrong, So what? There you go. You saved yourself a ton of money.
This package is stupid. Gluten is in everything.
Gluten is everywhere. It's scary. Wheat, flour, it's mixed in gravies. That's why we did a gluten-free gravy today. Okay? But I challenge you to do this. Okay? I want you to try the apple cider vinegar. I want you to have apple cider vinegar every day, about 2 tablespoons. However you can get it in your system. I don't care. See what happens in a couple of days. We're not going anywhere yet. Okay. Got the Chippendale dancers coming, so you relax. Okay? That's why she sat up front. Because she knew they were coming. So. And I want you to try to stay away from grains for 10 days. Now that leaves you 120,000 foods. I don't know if that's the exact number. But you're not going to starve. So for breakfast, we can have fruit. We can have a smoothie. Okay? If you have to have a grain, quinoa or even oatmeal. Okay? Not the best. Gluten-free oatmeal. Well, oatmeal is always gluten-free unless it's cross-contaminated. Okay? So there are gluten-free oatmeals you can get. Okay?
Buckwheat too, Dr. Joe.
Buckwheat would work.
Very good in B vitamins too.
Okay? Buckwheat might work. Okay? But again, try to stay away from the grains. That's what we're trying to get away from.
Ezekiel bread.
Ezekiel bread is sprouted. It's a little better, but it's not perfect. It still has wheat in it. It's sprouted wheat, though. Yeah. Okay? Yeah. So it still has gluten. Okay?
It's an excellent one.
Yeah, cream of buckwheat. Okay? That might be something you can try. But again, in our little test time, we probably want to avoid this. Then we go back to grains. This might be a better choice. Okay? So, try it for 10 days and see what happens. Okay? You got plenty of time before Thanksgiving. You can do this. And see how much better you feel. You'll feel better instantly. The first day, you'll notice a change. Okay? And so you can do peas. English peas. They're on sale with a coupon today, as a matter of fact. So you can get them. What I do, something really simple. I do this a lot because it's simple and easy. I take peas. I add olive oil, nutritional yeast, which is loaded with B vitamins, essential fatty acids, and amino acids. Peas, olive oil, nutritional yeast, salt, pepper, and a little oregano. Let's mix it all together. And I've made what? Pea salad. Okay, you can add a mayonnaise, a healthy organic mayonnaise. Some mayonnaises have eggs in them. If you're going to do eggs, please, I beg of you, do organic. Okay? Let me go off on a tangent here for a second. I'm going to give you a plate of food. And on this plate is going to be chicken heads, intestines, bowel, fecal matter, toes, cancerous chickens, feathers. Okay? And I'm going to ask you to eat this. Would you do it? No. Okay. I didn't think so. Now let's assume I'm a chicken. Commercial chicken. That's what they're fed. Now they're fed grains and steroids and hormones and chemicals and antibiotics as well. But that's a lot of what their meal is made of. So if that chicken is eating that, what do you think the egg is made out of? That. There you go. That was the answer. So why would you want to eat an egg made out of fecal matter and brains and cancer and things like that, when you could have an organic egg where the chicken is fed what's something you would eat? Okay? So if you're going to do eggs, I beg of you, on my knees, please do organic eggs. If you're going to do turkey, if you're going to do chicken, I beg of you, do organic. Okay? It's going to be a lot smaller, a little more expensive because it doesn't have the growth hormones in it. They're not super turkeys. Try it and see. Okay? And just eat a little bit. Have more salad. Have more of the celery and spinach and figs and things like that. Okay? And notice how much better you feel. And you do the apple cider vinegar, and you do the healthy foods, and you ruin your appetite before every meal between now and spring, and you watch what happens. But the most important thing you need to do is check the spine. Check to see if bones are out of alignment. Because if bones are out of alignment, put them back in place, open up the nerve supply physically, and then the body can respond to this whole new lifestyle that you've created. And you'll be amazed. I'm 50 years old. I'm a single dad of a 7-year-old daughter. Practice 6 days a week. We do the radio show. Okay? We were told today at the studio, hopefully, they're going to start giving me some time live on the air. Prime time. Covering other people's shows, and then eventually, hopefully, becoming syndicated.
What radio station?
We'll give you a card at the end on what radio stations we're on, okay? We're on several different stations, okay? And if you want to hear the shows, if you go to my website, which will be on the card, I'll give you another card. On the website, drjoeesposito.com, Click on a link that says newsletters. You'll have access to about 500 hours of radio shows. It's absolutely free. It's my gift to you. Other professionals say to me all the time, why don't you charge for that? We get hundreds of thousands of hits on our website all the time. How come you don't charge for this? I said, because this information is too vital. This information is too important to charge people for. Okay, if I can help get the world healthy, that's great. That's enough payment for me. Okay? But if you do have a spinal issue, if you do have a pinched nerve, it's vital to get that fixed.